Well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. It's a lovely Sunday morning over here from Helsinki, Finland, and I'm feeling good today. No, I'm not. Actually, I still have a nasty headache, but it's all good. We'll get through this one once again. As actually Bitcoin's suggesting a little bit of some weekend fun action, you might say. So with that in mind, I would like to wish you the best, and the happiest, and let's get into it right now. Starting off, as always, with the Krown Chain application. Bitcoin dominance shooting up full percent actually over yesterday to today. As Bitcoin starts to take the reins of the market once again, we do see that fear and greed index actually taking one point of a leg down right there to a 74, which is still within the greedy zone as you would expect after Bitcoin, went basically 17,000 bucks unabated to the upside from 40 to 7,000 bucks. Other than that, though, I really want to get in the market data tab over here because there's a couple of very interesting things that we've been speaking about and following up on for the last like 2-3 weeks now that I think are coming to fruition like this week actually. So it is very much relevant for now. So first things first, the global open interest right over here, which my face is kind of blocking a good portion of the pane, but you don't need to see that. All you need to see is this. The open interest is actually starting to finally come off as we did hit new all-time highs just below 15 billion with a B, actually now currently at about 13.75 actually billion with a B yet again. So we are seeing people starting to let go of their leverage positions, and that is also coming a little bit off on the global leverage ratio as well right here. It is taking an ever so slight downturn, but obviously these need to precipitate before we actually see price action really follow through. And that really is lining up for perhaps, early this coming week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are going to be with very hot, contentious eyes, at least as far as I'm looking at things right now. Global funding rate still not anything nearly consequential. So it would be a lot easier to call a downside move if we were operating on 10x that number, even just like 5x that number, which is, which would put us at like half of a percent in that case. But for right now, well, not really much. Or sorry, not 0.5%, but 0.05 is what I'm trying to say. Anyways, other than that, let's go check in on the fourth pane over here. I think there might be a couple interesting things. Yeah, hash rate still stays high, which is good. So the network is nice and healthy, and hash rate typically does precipitate price action. So overall, long term, I want to be very deliberately clear here. Long term, very bullish on Bitcoin, or at least I am over the next few months here. But the question is, short and medium term, do we play out a nice little pulley backy in the interim as the whale ratio does start to head up yet again as well? Not anything too concerning there just yet, but theoretically more potential selling on spot price action is what that does suggest. So let's waste no more time. Let's get into the charts right here, right now. I want to start off with the lower term timeframes today, and then we'll lead it into the higher term timeframes. But basically, we had our level it's kind of set up from yesterday's video. I had it around 60,000 bucks on an hourly. Now that we actually do have yesterday's little flippy floppy that we had right here with that wick below, but no closures below, more importantly. And of course, if you were looking at an hourly, it did not close below 6,000 bucks, just very specifically right there. Coming back down to this region is not necessarily a sign of strength, if you will. And I would go as far as saying that now we could actually move up the resolution point on a 4-hour closure. I'd still use the same on an hourly, however, to 60,300, meaning that if a 4-hour dodo does close below there, I would be looking for the next short-term leg down, somewhere right around about 59,000 bucks, even maybe 100 bucks below there or so before the next sort of short-term bounce. Could that be where Bitcoin does put in this next higher low? Because that is something that I think a lot of people, myself included, have been waiting very patiently for. Perhaps yes, although we will discuss scenarios a little bit lower than that, because that would be a little bit too easy in my opinion. And then of course, if you do want to have a little bit of a short-term invalidation right here, you certainly can. Short-term, any sort of an hourly closure above yesterday's little spike high right there at about 61, let's call it 61,700. I would be looking for another retest somewhere around about just below 63,000 bucks right here. So I'm actually $1,500 trade on both sides, which is generous of Bitcoin, I suppose. But I wouldn't call this a bullish resolution on the medium-term time frame structure until Bitcoin really starts to close 4-hour dildos back above that basically $63,000 number. If that starts to happen, I'd basically be looking for Bitcoin to work its way sideways and up around the prior time high and very likely lead towards the macro continuation. But for right now, things are, again, as we said yesterday, somewhat looking like we do see a bit of a pullback first, and that would be further confirmed again. Starting with the lower term time frames, like a 4-hour closure below about 60,300, or an hourly below the same level as yesterday, which was basically $60,000 even. One of those two things would do it for me. If that does happen, again, short-term target to about just below 59,000 bucks, very likely a short-term bounce there. And then I'd want to see where the bounce gets to. However, if we go over to the other higher term time frames, like a daily right and over here, you can see that we are within a bit of a precarious place. Now, first and foremost, another reason why I do kind of like that, $58,500 to $59,000 region, we'll say. Actually, in fact, I'll do it something like this now that we can have a Yeah, here we go. Yeah, this will be it. Something like this, down to about 58.5. Yeah, something like that is kind of what I'd be looking for on an actual break to the downside. That actually be right in line with the daily 21 exponential average right here as well. However, it should be noted that this is unlikely to happen today if it's going to happen at all. In fact. Of course, first things first, you'd actually need a fucking break in structure to even initiate that in the way that I look at things. But second thing second, obviously CME did close the week at 61,000 bucks, just above 61,000 bucks. So I suspect that, Bitcoin probably spent some time, hanging around here. And if we do break before that, well, fair enough. I mean, at the end of the day, price action is price action, right? But long term, you can see that while the 21 is right around there at about, in the mid $58,000 territory, and that would be a higher low if Bitcoin could put in a bottom right there. It really wouldn't be asking too much for Bitcoin to come down, somewhere between about $54,000 to $55,000 after a bit of a short-term bounce on a break of the short-term time frames, about $58,500 or $59,000. In fact, how would I judge a continuation down to those levels after that? Well, this one pretty damn simple right here as well. If we do start to close 4-hour dildos, especially below, let's call it 59,000 bucks, then yeah, I would be looking for that next leg down to the area that I've really been waiting for myself. If I am looking for long-term positions, which usually I'm not like a big person for that, but this is, if I had to pick a position, that's kind of where I'd be looking towards. Basically between about 54 to 55,000 bucks. Also in line with the daily 55 right here, as well as it does start to line up and rise around that region, which I imagine will happen about middle of this coming week, 27th to 28th of October, actually. So we're actually going to see, are we going to see the end of October this week? No, it's actually 1 week from today. All right, interesting. Anyways, for reiteration purposes right here, I do want to say this, all higher term timeframes still very much bullish. Obviously, it's just, we can certainly play out a pullback in between there and still remain with that long-term bullishness. I'd really only be concerned, like super concerned about the long-term structure of Bitcoin. If Bitcoin starts to come back down and close weeklies below, let's call it 50,000 bucks. If that happens, we could perhaps be in for another run somewhere down around, upper 30s. But that's well and far away. I don't want to scare anyone with that kind of talk right now because it's not relevant to what we're looking at. And while Bitcoin did close a nice shooting star dildo on the weekly right here for CME, it's looking like spot actually probably does that as well. Any sort of a closure below the top side trailing band, which is 61,400 or so, then yeah, I would say that would be another good sort of nail in the coffin or another sort of check mark on the checklist that Bitcoin very likely pulls back first early this coming week. And then we see our continuation probably in November, if I had to guess, probably in November, because remember, we're going to be closing the monthly at basically just 1 week from today. There's nothing bearish about this monthly at all whatsoever long term. We can play all the way back down to 54,000 bucks, and that would still be, in my opinion, very, very bullish long term. Here's the thing though, here would be the more obvious of these, and that would be any sort of a monthly closure above the top side trailing band, obviously at about 67,000 bucks, or actually, it's 66,300 right now. I would be looking for a continuation early in November rather than a bit of a consolidation, probably lower first. But at the end of the day, can't be beggars, or beggars can't be choosers. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And then what about the bi-monthly as well, as we're closing that one at the end of this month? Yeah, this is the next big one for me as well here. Any sort of a closure above 56,400 by the end of the month. And then, yes, I am looking for, these next couple of months to print significantly new all-time highs. If Bitcoin does close below that 56,300 level, let's just call it 56,000 bucks. That would be the first major warning flag that the macro structure is not necessarily ready just yet. But for what it's worth right now, this is still, phenomenally good long term. And if we are looking at the macro structure right here, correlating to, the next 3 to 4 months to come, realistically, what could we be looking at from this perspective, as I do draw a more long-term macro fib here? Jesus Christ, man. All right, let me just get rid of that as well. We'd probably be looking at, 100,000 plus, probably around end of year, if I had to guess. Maybe early next year, and potential for more over time as well, depending upon how moon boy-ish we get over here. Anyways, momentum oscillators, what are we looking at right now? CME, again, I do think is the most important one to be watching, especially early in the week when everything opens back up again. And higher term timeframes are nosediving right here. Daily coming down hard below 66,700. 2-day is going to be freshly crossing down below 66,300 or so. 5-day is 56,750 is kind of pivoted right there. What about the weekly? Yeah, we'll remain to the upside as long as above 59, which it did close above there. I just want to match this up with what we see on spot price action. But first things first, full 4 hour 61 200. Interesting. What about hourly? Yeah, both lower term time frames actually are potentially could salvage this one right here actually. Again, price action matters more than anything else, but that is why we went over the shorter term time frames first. Anyways, let's just out of curiosity, what does a spot price action look like right now? Obviously, price action right there does not look good, but hourly stocks will pop back up above 61,000 bucks. By the way, HVP is on the floor right there, so we are looking for a move intraday today. 4 hour is freshly crossing the downside as long as below 60,700 is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, you know, again, if I had to call this right now, short-term time frames do break down, probably do a play to move to at the least 59,000 bucks or maybe slightly lower than that, and then in for a decent-sized bounce only, you might even call it. And then, of course, you know, your medium-term time frames, what are we looking like right here? 12-hour stocks have more or less reset. It looks like 64,000 bucks going to be the magical number, but these ones are nosediving hard. Daily coming down hard again, similar to CME, 600, the magical number right there. 2-day. Basically 6,000 bucks. So these ones are very much in concert with what we see on CME, which is good. I mean, it is nice to see everything kind of aligning with each other. And we have the weekly over here at 58,500 or so. So again, I do not look at these downside targets as actionable, even on the short term, as long as we are playing above these regions right here. Again, a 4 hour closure above, below 6,300 or an hourly below 60,000 even would do it for me for the short term. Until then, you know, technically speaking, you should probably be looking for, at the very least, an extremely short-term time frame bounce off this 60,300-ish number right here. But playing that one at your peril, I would not be playing that one myself. Anyways, we are 11 minutes into this video, no, 12 minutes into this video. Is there anything else that I want to be speaking about today? I didn't really cover like too much long-term price action right here. Obviously, if Bitcoin comes down, altcoins are going to be very likely coming down with it. So while the setups are, you know, most altcoins are like showing some really phenomenal setups, probably going to put that a bit on hold if and when Bitcoin does come down here, assuming that it does. But yeah, is there anything else that I want to be speaking about right here? We do see hourly BBWP on the floor. We've already spoken about that. What about 4 hour? Yeah, coming down as well. What about 12 hour and daily? 12 hour is actually popping back up, and daily is contracting still. Very interesting. So, you know, what would the daily BBWP suggest about all of this? The daily BBWP going into a contraction phase right here would suggest that we are to be looking for higher lows, or at least I'm to be looking for higher lows on first pass. Again, Bitcoin just zoomed the whole way up around here. So whether it comes around, you know, 58.5 or 59, or maybe even all the way down to 54 to 55,000 bucks, I'm very much open to, but what I'd be looking for is daily BBWP to contract into that. And then as Bitcoin does put in the higher low, then start to point back up as we do get, well, presumably trend continuation. So that would be the ideal situation, obviously. But what has me concerned is what we spoke about earlier with price action, and then also the underlying market dynamics right here with the global leverage ratio, the open interest, and to not really much of an extent, the funding rates. It was only high there for like 1 day, actually. So that would be a little bit still concerning if it is going to play out, or if it is going to provide some sort of a massive edge. It's very likely to happen earlier this week. And for what it's worth right now, yeah, I stick with what I said over yesterday, and kind of this idea that I've been postulating for the past couple weeks now, that, you know, at some point Bitcoin is going to play out that move, and it's probably going to scare the shit out of everyone, myself included. You know, I always want to include myself in these equations. Like, I'm not fucking immune to emotions, obviously, but hey, you know, keep in mind where we're at in the grand scheme of things right here. Also should be known, I suppose, while we're here, maybe we can end on this, the bi-weekly Bollinger Bands. Or sorry, bi-weekly is going to be closing today. You know, so far it's been a rejection of the topside Krown band, and I mean, you can still see that we're kind of ranging here on the greater scale. So, you know, worst case scenario, or it's not worst case scenario, I shouldn't talk about that. Yeah, you know, I'm not going to talk about that. Perhaps I'll save it for another video where we go over like much more long-term price action analysis, but I thought that this was really pertinent today, so I wanted to focus it on these sort of a things. So maybe I'll end it right there. Again, short-term time frame is kind of where it's all at right now, with BBWP coming off the floor. That is suggesting that we're going to see a move intraday here. You know, if it comes to the downside, it's going to very likely actually break to the downside. If it comes to the upside, I'd look at 61,700 or so. Just any sort of a closure above this spike high from yesterday would look really good for a short-term continuation of about 1,500 bucks or so. And then 63,000 is like the big number on the full hour. If Bitcoin starts to get back above there, I'd say that Bitcoin at that point very likely to set in that next higher low, basically kind of where we're at right now. If that were to happen, that would look really, 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 really good. But you know, if that does get rejected there, then, well, same old until we see that resolution. So until then, I do suspect that it's time to be a little bit more cautious here. I suspect that, with all these Bitcoin ETFs and whatnot being spoken about and going live in the past week, a lot of people are being trapped right now. Yeah, it's no secret that, what was it, Bito or BitF or whatever the fuck it is. I think it's Bito, or the ticker, right? The new one, the fucking new one on there, which I need to add to my own charts myself. It had like a record day. Like nothing has ever outdone that ever. So we can expect that games will be played here. And in this case, well, you can probably imagine. Anyways, with that said, I'm going to be shutting off this video. It's 15 minutes too long. I'll be back on tomorrow with some more live stream analysis. So we get to do the old fun stuff again. Take care, and until next time.